So Eurogamer has confirmed that the sources that the Wall Street Journal has over at Nintendo, those anonymous inside sources that know things about 2 new Nintendo Switch models coming probably this year or maybe even this summer, they're accurate. And they actually have even more information than the Wall Street Journal does on these 2 new Nintendo Switch models coming this year. Let's get into it. Skip it up and that up. So if you remember, I did a video a couple days ago where the Wall Street Journal says they had insider information saying that, hey, look, Nintendo is coming out with 2 new Switch models, maybe even this summer. One of them is going to be cheaper and more affordable. It's going to be like the 2DS, and then they're going to have the beefier, more hardcore gamer model that's going to have better features. They kind of were vague on if it's going to have better performance, maybe a more powerful processor, more RAM, so on and so forth, but they said it's going to be more hardcore gamer focused. So whatever the hell that means, that's what Wall Street Journal said. Well, Eurogamer has inside sources over at Nintendo, like I said in the intro of this video, and they were like, hey, is what we're hearing from the Wall Street Journal true? And they said yes, and they actually got even more information from their inside sources about these 2 new Nintendo Switch models coming probably this year. So what Eurogamer found out is Nintendo is pretty much following the same formula they did with the 3DS. Like the original Switch is the original 3DS. The cheaper Switch that's coming out that may not even work with docks, even though my original information kind of said it would work with docks, will be the 2DS. And the more powerful Nintendo Switch, which has also been dubbed the Nintendo Switch Pro, will be akin to the new Nintendo 3DS, which had a more powerful processor, so on and so forth. And there were actually some games that were either enhanced for it or would only run on the new Nintendo 3DS. So let's talk about the cheaper Nintendo Switch first. What Nintendo is trying to do with that, according to Eurogamer, is they're trying to make it a value proposition like they did with the 2DS, the Wedge 2DS that came out a few years ago. For example, you could get the Nintendo 2DS, I'm looking at it right now, for $79 with new Super Mario Bros. 2. So you can get the system and a game, a good game, for $79. So basically for the price of a AAA Xbox One game or PS4 game or PC game, you could get an entire system with a game. So yes, that's a really damn good deal. Now, I don't think this cheaper Nintendo Switch will be $79, at least when it first comes out, but they're going to cut back on things. 2 things that Eurogamer says they're going to cut back on is that HD Rumble, which no developer really uses. I wouldn't miss it anyway, so long as there's some kind of haptic feedback. And even though this is conflicting with what else I heard, the cheaper Switch won't be dockable. So we'll see if they actually get rid of that. I think they kind of should keep it, but if it really will cut down on costs to not let this cheaper Nintendo Switch be dockable, hey, they're trying to just go after the, replace the 2DS with this cheaper Nintendo Switch. So I guess they don't need it to be dockable. So it is what it is. We'll see. We'll have to wait and see what happens with that. They're also saying that this cheaper Nintendo Switch will be designed for children, which I guess I could say is one of my gripes with the original Nintendo Switch. I think it's only made for adults. You give that thing to a kid, they could destroy that console in a day because it's just the soft plastic screen. I don't know. I don't think it's one of Nintendo's least durable systems from what I've seen. But this cheaper Switch, they're going to design to be more kid-proof. So from the ground up, it's going to be built to, take a beating, which I think is a good thing. Now, this is where things get interesting with Eurogamer's information. Because if you remember with my previous video talking about the Wall Street Journal info, they were saying that you can't really compare the Switch Pro to the PS4, what Sony did with the PS4 Pro and what Microsoft did with the Xbox One X. It's not going to be the same thing. Where Eurogamer is saying they kind of are doing the same thing. They're doing what Nintendo did with the new Nintendo 3DS by making it have more powerful, capable hardware. So if Nintendo does that with this Switch Pro, I don't know what the name of it's going to be. That's why I keep doing the air quotes. That kind of would be akin to what Sony and Microsoft did with their half-gen refreshes that are more powerful. So we'll have to wait and see. But if they do that, that'll be interesting. Hopefully they give it like 8 gigs of RAM and maybe the Tegra X2 processor in there or whatever they're going to do. So at least it could be fully 1080p capable gaming and we could get maybe the Resident Evil 2 remake, which I heard is coming to the Switch Pro. And games like that. And hopefully it'll be powerful enough so it'll be in the same realm as the PS5 and next Xbox. It's going to be nowhere near as powerful as those systems, I know that, but at least it's powerful enough so if developers want to whittle down the next Doom after Doom Eternal, it could still run on the Switch Pro. Hoping that that happens, that would be a good thing. So I'm going to do some speculation right now as to pricing for these two Nintendo Switches. I don't think we'll see the cheaper Nintendo Switch go for like $150. I'm thinking $199. They'll cut off $100 from it. I think $149 would be too cheap, but maybe they'll get it there. I was totally wrong about the pricing of the Switch. I swore up and down the Nintendo Switch would be $249. It was $299, and I was completely wrong. So maybe they'll prove me wrong once again and make the cheaper Nintendo, more kid-proof Nintendo Switch even cheaper than I'm predicting. And I'm thinking that the Switch Pro, you know, especially if it's going to come with a nice 1080p screen and more powerful processor, more RAM, maybe even more storage internally, I'm thinking that it'll be $349. And, you know, that'll make it a niche market product. That's a hell of an expensive handheld for gaming. But if it's awesome, I think people will buy it. So we'll have to wait and see. It's interesting that there's another credible website with credible sources saying that the information from the Wall Street Journal with their insider Nintendo sources is credible. But who knows? Now, here's something interesting that I found out in the past before. Even though these sources are credible, they still could be, without even realizing it, giving misinformation. Because here's what happens sometimes. Nintendo and Apple and Sony and Microsoft, they like to know if people are leaking information. So what they'll do is purposely give employees false information, specifically false information. So if information gets out there, they know exactly which employee is leaking crap. So this may be, these employees may think they know what's going on, but they may have engineers purposely telling them misinformation to see if they're actually trustworthy or not. And when these stories get out there, I'm not saying this information is wrong, it could be very accurate, but it also could be Nintendo seeing who's leaking or not, and engineers may be purposely giving these leakers false information, specific false information, so they could find out who is just leaking important confidential information about Nintendo that they shouldn't be. It happens, I'm telling you, so that could be what's happening here too. We may be totally off the mark because Nintendo's leading us off the mark by putting out this wrong information purposely, and maybe they want to see if their employees are trustworthy or not. It does happen. It's happened before, so that could be what's happening here too. So we'll have to wait a few more months and see what Nintendo actually unveils. But I have a feeling this information is accurate, and we are going to see new Switch models. And I'm pretty excited about it, man. I'm excited for the cheaper one and for the more powerful one. I want to see what Nintendo actually puts out there hardware-wise. This is Rich at Review Tech USA signing out. Have a good one. I left crap up on the screens. It's not porn.